So, hi everybody and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 5 full game tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 45 and in this video we continue of course with our game which we want to make in 7 days, and we planned already a little bit. We tested this project settings so that we know this maps here will render right in the final product, but we need to define our story a little bit more in detail now. We already made a brainstorming where we planned that we want to make a first person, that it should be a detective story in my case, and I want to use of course as less work as possible. And now I need to define this the story and how I want to implement the story here in the game a little bit more in detail. So let's do this as our next step. But before we do anything, let's watch our overview again. Here is our game horror folder. Let's watch the overview and you can see we finished the first part here. Very nice. And I added here this game story, because we had here normally this part, then start game, but I added this game story, and this game story was already a little bit defined before. That was in my first video where we made this brainstorming, how we want, what kind of game we want. And while we was doing this, I also defined this game story there a little bit, but like I said, now while we start the game, we have to provide more information for the story to make it very simple. That's our goal. We want to make a very simple story first, so that we avoid too much work. So, which means when I say simple, I mean we will only do the core elements and skip again all the creative elements for later if we have additional time. If we have no time, then we skip them at all. But if we have them time, we can add this creative component. So we will concentrate us only for the core elements for this game at start. And to do so, we still have to define the story more in detail. And that is exactly what we do. To do that, I open up again a paint here and I start to make a brainstorm about this game story. So how we make this, very easy. We write here in the middle the game story. All right. And now we try to define this game story a little bit more in detail. And like I said, in my case, it should be a detective story because I have already something in my mind. Let's write this and see what we can do. So detective, I don't know, right? We detectives this way. Detective story. Story. Let's write it. So whatever. Detective story, and I want make it not too complicated. Let's go on. And let's write here, what else? Detective story, vanishing people in rural village, because that is the map which we are using. You can see this is the map which I want to use, and here in this rural village, this is a part of it. Here are vanishing people, and we are a detective, and we have to solve this case. I think that's nice. We can use that. So let's write here vanishing people in rural village. All right, that is good. Then let's go on with any ideas. This must be not our final ideas. These are just ideas. We can kick them out if we don't like them. Just like a brainstorming, we throw in what we think it's good or not. But let's see. So we have a detective. We have this vanishing people. This is our thing, what we should solve as a detective. And I want this be a horror game? Let's write horror here too, because it can be a detective, and there are different kind of detective stories, right? Let's write here horror, so that we know horror, that this game should be. When we write horror, then we know this game will be not nice. I mean, not nice in the kind of. It is not just a detective story like in anime or something like that. It is a detective story where something bad happens, something like that. All right, that's good. Then we can write a little bit more. So we can write, of course, the theme. Like I said, this theme here of the game jam for 7 days was this theme was as above, I think, so below, as above, so below. That was that what you all created in the mega jam, and I'm creating it right after the mega jam. And this is also important that we include this theme in our story, right? All right, let's go here a little bit more, but not perhaps too deep, because I want to make it short, not too long, short. So what are we have here? We have here a horror game. We have this theme and a detective story. I think this one here is very nice, detective story. There is probably a person who is a detective, our first person. There are vanishing people. This is the case. Let's do them together. That fits already a little bit together. And then this is more just what we need for effects. So it should be horror, and this one we need to include separately anyhow. This theme must be included in this story. But it's not finished. It looks not so that it's yeah, we have to work a little bit more. So how we can work, for example, you go to the scene here, and I said, yeah, this detective will try to find here anyhow hints. And now, to avoid a lot of work, we must be creative. What I mean with that, there are different ways of approaches to a game and so on. One way is where you have to work a lot, but you will show a lot for the player. Well, what is this approach? This approach is very simple. Let's say you make here an intro, and then you show this village here, then you show perhaps many persons, then you introduce different locations, and then you introduce different persons and different I don't know, you introduce so many new things, and this is normally a very nice approach for a big game, because the more you introduce, the more interesting it becomes, the more location and so on. But we have here a problem. This game, we want finish this game in 7 days, and we can't introduce many locations, we can't introduce many persons, and we can't do all these nice things what would make this game really interesting. So what we have to do is we need to find a way still to introduce many things, but use just this one map what we see here. This is a solution. This we have to do because we have just 7 days. Because if we have so less time, it makes no sense to create many places, locations, persons, talks, and all this kind of stuff. So what is the solution? The solution is, actually there are different kind of solutions, but the solution which I consider is telling a narrator. So let's write this in our here as well. So we can make a yes. Let's write something like narrator. Right? A narrator is providing us information. So you will know a person at the start is, or we can make it even better. We can make it we can make the detective person here is talking to himself and is telling the story, all the information which we need. So the narrator is our detective who is talking so in his brain to itself and thinking to solve the solutions, and while he tried to think about the solution, he is repeating all the information which we need for this story. This is one creative way to avoid all this introducing of all the different locations, persons, and so on. So I make it very short now and write just detective thoughts. Detective thoughts. Then let's say player. Let's say player, which is our detective, but let's say player is thinking and narrating the story, or something like, let's not thinking, player is telling the story at the start while he is thinking about this, I don't know, about the about the case, something like that. Player is narrating story while he is trying to solve the case, something like that. And this is my really cheap, let's say, creative approach to avoid all the things what normally you would present step by step in different places. So let me show you what I mean with this again. So let's say we have here a player when I start here this game. So here I am. And while this, we have to see how we start this, but we have now to record the story, right? So I have to record the story, for example, with the microphone. This is one solution, but of course you can, if you have not a microphone, you could use also a letter. Instead of using a microphone, you can tell here at the start the story by blending a start screen letter where it gives us this pre-info. This is also a very cheap tactic to avoid a lot of work. It's telling the story, and then we are jumping directly, after we told all the stories, directly in the scene where the action is taking place. So we are skipping all the part where we're telling that this person here, which we are using, is a detective. He is perhaps a young detective who starts to take his first job, and his first job is leading anyhow, and then we will have to find why to this village, and he's trying to solve this case here in this village. All this kind of stuff will be formulated a little bit more in detail, but you can see if we do this, we can skip a lot of work and we are just diving into the action where he is trying now to solve this solution. I think it's a very nice approach, but we should write here as well the second solution. So here's we say player is narrating story while he is trying to solve the case, and how? Perhaps with text or with voice recording. We can choose here, right? One of these cases to avoid a lot of work. So I'm not interested in a lot of work when I have no time. And yeah, these are these two cases. And you can see while I'm doing this one, let's do this here below, whatever. While I'm doing this one, I avoid a lot of work. because with this little trick here, let's go, not here, let's close this one. With this little trick here, I can really jump into this level here and try to solve now this case, to find the vanishing people, or let's say to find a case where why these people are vanishing, and I can go into the gameplay planning, right? So all the stuff what we did here is actually to avoid the whole thing, but here we need one more step. What is the next step? The next step is we need, of course, now find a way to make a nice narration. Yes, we have a story for this. Let's say, let's call it a pre-story. Let's call it the pre-story before we jump into this. Yes, this level here. We can make this call. Let's call it pre-story. That's a pre-story. Pre-story. And this pre-story must be, of course, still defined. So this is still the job, but I will not do it now because I need a little bit more time for the pre-story, because I have to think about now who is this detective, why he is trying to come to this village, and all this kind of stuff like you do it in, yes, trying to tell a story. This one I make now offline, but it's not, I will not go too deep into it. It is just, like I said, you can put this later, this pre-story, as a text or a voice recording, depends what you need later. And then we have to think which is easier for us, probably text, because you can write this pre-story here as a text, but I think voice recording is more interactive, because text would mean the player must read now a text, but voice recording, you are talking this, let's say the player is more or less talking to himself and explaining his situation, why he is here, what he is doing, what its goal. So I will probably go for this microphone because I have a microphone, so why not? The only problem in my case, it's my English. I have a bad English. The better case would be if I found anyone who has a very good English and a grammar and can write for me the story. But I think I skip this part as well and try myself. It's anyway for demonstration purposes. But if you make a real game, and if I make a real game, I would here use anyone with good English and good grammar, probably anyone who learned this in university, so there is not a big problem, or anyone who has at least a very good English grammar, because yeah, when many people read this in English and they see many mistakes, this is also not the best thing. Anyway, that's the point why I make this voice recording, so I can skip this text here. And when I make voice recording, doesn't matter if my English is bad and I say I'm a foreigner, that's it. Why, whatever. That works anyhow. And yeah, with that said, I think we need a little bit more. We need here we have here two things here to include. So we have covered here what we want to make here, but we are not finished what we want to make here. So here we have to find still this pre-story. This one is still is a big topic, which we have to consider later. But we have here some infos, what I want to do. And now how I include this information, because here's the theme. As above, so below. So let's think about this also. So, if you participated in this Mega Jam, this theme here is really not easy. Because as above, so below, yes, many people think we have now to do something. Yeah, we're like a mirror. What I mean with mirror is when we do something above, so we must be doing something below. For example, we have here a landscape above and we are walking, then we should walking as well here below 2 or to take action here below 2, something like that. And so you can see this topic is not easy, but I heard already when you are yes, so native English speaker say to me you can interpret this even differently, must be not visually. You can say like if something happened above, then anything is happened below. And I think I take this approach in my case because what I want to do is in this detective story is when I make it very simple actually. When I walk above, then anything will walk below. And that's it. That's my above below. And of course, I will bind this in a horror game because the thing what walks below is of course something not human, right? That's why we make this here. I think this is the way I go here. So when I walk, when the player here later walks above, something will walk below, and the something will all time come closer when he walks, because when he walks above, the thing below walks too. All right, and this will be probably a riddle to solve for our detective, and if he can't solve it and react to it, then he will die. And of course there is one more thing very important. You can see this is daylight, and in my case I need of course night, because a horror game in daylight works not, right? So we will change this lightning, we will make here, we will kick out this lightning, and that's why we have also this lighter here, right? That's why I showed you here in the horror engine. We have here a lighter, and we change here. Let me show you that if I can do this directly here. So what I want to do later is I kick out this one. I kick out the directional light. And this one. Is there more light? Yes, there is. Let's see. Yeah, let's skylight. These lights can stay for now, but what I have here, here's a sky sphere. Oh, this must be go too. Adios. That looks much better, but still too much light anyhow. What is more light here? Okay, I have to check later what this light is, but you get the idea, right? It must be very dark here. Right now it's not dark. Right now it's too much light. It's still too much light here. It must be dark, really dark in my case. And that gives here the real feeling of a horror game. And yeah, I have to kick out here more lights. It must be dark, and later when you have this lighter in your hand or this flashlight or whatever, and you are walking here in the dark, then you will have a very, very strange feeling when it's really dark. When it's so like this one, it's not dark yet at all. That is not a strange feeling, but you get the idea, right? So this is so my plan more or less. And yeah, the only thing what I have to do here is now write this pre-story, for example, so I avoid a lot of work so that I can jump into the scene here. And here I have to make a little bit level design, which means just kick out the lights so that it's dark. And then we need to set up perhaps yes, some more information which is related to the story which I tell here. And then yeah, we will develop more and more. But I hope you get the idea that this storytelling is very important, because this game story is our more or less red line. Red line means we are following this game story here and build it accordingly. So you can see here I skipped now a lot of work just with this little setup here, because if you are making not a pre-story here, then Yeah, then telling a story, it's very hard, because then you would, like I said, you would introduce the player, this location, this other places. This is a lot of work. I skipped them all at once. And with that said, I think I stopped this video here. And in the next video, this pre-story I will try to make offline, because I want not waste here thinking here, but I will present it in the next video and use it to start the game. So then we will use this information here to go to start game again, and our start game was what? Start game was game setup. We did this already. And then I showed you already that I won't use this main menu widget, because I want to skip this creative part again. I want only concentrate on the core system, which means I use only the main menu widget and skip here the trailer, the intro. But now I need to tell this pre-story, and I have, like I said, to think how I'm doing this later. In-game with a text, I'm still not sure how I want to do it. I tend to use this voice recording, but perhaps text is even simpler. You just write it one time down and then present it at a loading screen while you load this level, perhaps, and that's it. And then you are in the game, play game and so. But we will see this in the next video. Alright, with that said, I stop this video here. If you have any questions and any complaints like all time, any suggestions, just write here in the comments. See you in the next video, where we continue with our little game. Bye, good luck, and like all time, have fun and never give up.